It was supposed to be just another Sunday afternoon. The kind where pastel balloons lined the walls, laughter buzzed through the house, and someone always shouted, "More lemonade," as toddlers weaved between adults like sugar-fueled pinballs. I hadn't planned on going. Honestly, I knew better. My sister, Belle, and I hadn't spoken properly in years. Not since she made it clear I was just a nobody with a broom, while she was the one with a brand. Still, my mother begged. "Just come for a little while, Cleo," she said over the phone that morning. "She's your sister. She's having a baby. Please don't cause a scene." Funny how people always assumed I was the one who caused the scene. So there I was, sleeves rolled up, rearranging folding chairs because the party planner canceled last minute. My dress was simple, white cotton, floral print, not designer. I'd volunteered to help because it was the right thing to do. That's who I was. Always had been. But maybe that was the problem. As I crouched to pick up a plate someone dropped, I heard her voice above me. "Wow," Belle laughed, loud enough to pull every eye in the room. "Cleo really is just here to clean up after everyone." Heads turned. A few chuckles, a few awkward glances. Someone pretended not to hear. My back stiffened, but I didn't stand. Instead, I stayed there, kneeling by a piece of shattered china, my fingertips brushing the pieces like they mattered. Then she added, "You'll never have what I do, Cleo. I mean, come on. It's okay to accept your place." That's when I stood up. Not in rage. Not in some movie-worthy explosion. Just still. Quiet. Calm. But my eyes found hers, and didn't flinch. She was wearing designer heels, fake lashes, and a silk dress that screamed money. But she didn't look strong. She looked brittle. I opened my mouth to speak, but another voice spoke first. Actually, the voice cut through the air, deep and composed. "That's not true." Gasps floated like soap bubbles. Every head turned. He stepped forward from the back of the room, hands in his blazer pockets. My husband, Elias. The kind of man who didn't need to flash money to prove he had it. He just was. His presence shifted a room. Not because of the designer suit or the glint of his watch, but because of how he looked at people. Like he saw through their words. Belle blinked at him. "I'm sorry, who?" Elias smiled. Not arrogantly. Not cruelly. Just a warm, even expression. "I'm Cleo's husband." Then he turned to the room. "And while we're sharing roles, let me add a few. CEO. Investor. Partner in the very hospital where Belle is registered to give birth." The room froze. You may not recognize me because I don't usually attend baby showers. But I came today because Cleo asked me to. And when she asks, I listen. A long silence swallowed the air. Belle stammered, "You're married to him?" Elias tilted his head. "Yes. And proud of it. You know, Cleo didn't tell me much about your relationship. But watching this, I can see why." I wasn't smiling. I wasn't gloating. But my throat burned with emotions I hadn't let surface in years. Elias reached into his inner jacket pocket and pulled out a check. He handed it to my mother. "Use this to hire a proper caterer and cleanup crew. Cleo deserves to sit and be celebrated today, not mocked." Brielle's hands trembled. Her eyes darted to the check. Her cheeks flushed crimson. She stepped back, one hand over her chest. And then she turned. Fast. Stormed past the guests, out the back door, the click of her heels cracking against the patio tiles. No one followed her. No one needed to. The room was silent for a beat after Belle left. No one quite sure what to say. The kind of silence that's heavier than noise. I stood there, frozen in the middle of crumpled napkins and spilled lemonade, unsure if I should run after her or let her go. But Elias gently reached for my hand, threading his fingers through mine. "You okay?" he asked, softly enough that only I could hear. I nodded, but I wasn't sure if I was okay, because under the rush of vindication was something else. Sadness? Guilt? No, compassion. That was the thing no one expected of me. Not even me. As the rest of the guests slowly returned to their conversations, tentative, awkward, my mom pulled me aside near the kitchen door. Her voice trembled as she asked, "You married Elias?" That Elias? I nodded again. And you didn't tell us? There was never space to, I said. Every time I tried, someone was already telling me who I'd never be. She looked away, blinking hard. Her lipstick was smudged, and her eyes carried that weary, regretful glaze only mothers can wear. She didn't apologize, not in words. But the way her shoulders drooped and her hand tightened on my wrist, that was something. Elias stepped in again, ever the diplomat, asking, would it be all right if we brought in some fresh catering? Just something small, warm, and comforting. My mom could barely speak. She just nodded again and again. And within 20 minutes, his assistant arrived with trays of food. Nothing flashy. Just thoughtful, handmade dishes. The air smelled like rosemary and butter and freshly baked kindness. As everyone slowly began to enjoy the meal, I stepped outside, into the fading sunlight. I found Belle by the side fence, leaning against it, her shoulders shaking. I knew she didn't expect me to follow her. I stood in the grass, a few feet away. Quiet. You came out here to say I had it coming? She asked without turning. No, I replied. I came out here because I know what it feels like to be humiliated. She scoffed. Not like that. I stepped closer. You're right. What you just felt. That sting, that flush in your chest, that heat behind your eyes. That's different from what I felt for years. Because you always had an audience. I was usually mocked in private. Silence. Why didn't you tell anyone you were married to him? She whispered, still not looking at me. Because I didn't need to, I said. Elias doesn't complete me. He supports me. And I didn't want my worth tied to anyone's money, even his. I wanted to earn my place. Be proud of what I built, even if it was scrubbing tables. Belle finally turned around. Her makeup was streaked, her eyes red. But beneath the polished exterior was something I'd almost forgotten she had. Vulnerability. I wasn't always like this, she said, voice cracking. After I got pregnant, Kyle left. You know that, right? I nodded. I'd heard whispers. And everyone said I had to be perfect. Had to show the world I didn't mess up. So I threw parties, wore expensive clothes, faked the glow. Because if I didn't, they'd treat me like you. Her words hit me like bricks. You were just trying to survive, I said quietly. She let out a weak laugh. In heels too tight and expectations heavier than my belly. I took another step toward her. You didn't need to step on me to stand taller, Belle. I know. She wiped her face with the hem of her dress. I know. And I'm sorry. That word. Sorry. So small. But in that moment, it felt heavier than all the cruelty she'd hurled at me over the years. I didn't say anything back. I just opened my arms. And she walked into them, sobbing like the little sister I used to braid hair with in a room filled with sticker books and late-night giggles. Back inside, Elias had taken over handing out slices of cake and refilling drinks. My mom was laughing, actually laughing with one of the older guests. And the guests? They weren't whispering anymore. They were chatting, eating, smiling. Later that night, as we drove home, Elias glanced over at me from the driver's seat. Was today what you expected? He asked. I leaned my head back against the seat. No. But maybe it was what I needed. You didn't rub anything in, he said. You could have destroyed her. I looked out the window at the passing lights. She was already breaking. She didn't need me to finish the job. He reached across and gently squeezed my hand. That's what makes you different, Cleo. That's why I fell for you. 3 days later, my phone buzzed with a text I never thought I'd see. Belle, can we talk? Just us. I owe you something. Please. I stared at the screen for a moment, then replied with a simple, okay. We met at a small cafe halfway between her house and mine. Neutral ground, far from judgmental stares or gossiping relatives. I wore jeans and a soft blue top. No makeup. No effort to impress. Just myself. Belle showed up in oversized sunglasses and a long coat, as if hiding from the world. Her usual bright red nails were chipped. Her hands trembled when she stirred her coffee. I've been thinking about that day nonstop, she said, eyes fixed on the table. The look on your face when I said those things. I was so used to playing the part, I didn't even realize how much damage I'd done. I stayed quiet. Let her speak. Sometimes silence is kinder than words. I was always jealous of you, you know, she whispered. Even when we were kids. You had something I didn't. That made me frown. Me? Jealous? Of what? Of your calm, she said, eyes glistening. You were never desperate to prove anything. You never needed applause. And now, you're married to a man who looks at you like you're the only thing that makes sense in this world. I exhaled slowly. I've worked hard for that peace. I know, she said. And I want it too. I just don't know where to begin. That's when I saw the truth in her eyes. Not guilt for getting caught, not embarrassment over her fall from grace, but a genuine yearning to grow. And I realized something. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about redemption for both of us. I've been thinking of starting something, I said. Something small. A community kitchen. A place for single moms, women starting over, or anyone who's just tired of pretending. Her lips parted slightly. You'd really do that? I nodded. With or without help. But I think you could be part of it. If you want. She blinked rapidly. You'd let me be part of that? I'd invite you. Her hand reached across the table, shaky but sincere. And just like that, something shifted. Not because the past disappeared, but because we stopped letting it define us. That week, news spread. Not about a scandal, not about a meltdown, but about a pop-up event being hosted by the Blake Foundation. That was Elias's surname. He insisted we use it. He said it sounded official. I said it sounded pretentious. We compromised with a soft opening. We started in the basement of a local church. 5 volunteers, 1 fridge, and a whiteboard with the words, "Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can." Belle showed up late on the first day, hair tied back, no makeup, holding a tray of cupcakes she'd baked herself. I burned the first batch, she muttered, placing them beside the fruit salad. They look perfect, I said. Women came. Some from shelters. Some from quiet suburban streets. Some just wandered in. We served meals. Told stories. Laughed. Sometimes cried. And in those shared moments, power quietly changed hands. It wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't revenge. It was restoration. One night, I was locking up when Elias walked in, still in his blazer, sleeves rolled up. "Place looks alive," he said, looking around at the photos we'd pinned to the wall. Smiles frozen in joy, kids with paint-smeared hands, one old man holding a bowl like it was made of gold. "You did this," he added. "No," I said softly. "We did this." He pulled me into a hug, his breath warm against my temple. "They all said you'd never amount to anything. And now look at you." "I didn't do it to prove them wrong," I whispered. "I did it to prove me right." Back at Belle's home, things weren't picture-perfect. She still struggled, still broke down at night, still fought off old habits like biting her tongue instead of lashing out. But there was progress. Honest, painful, beautiful progress. She got certified in prenatal care and started offering free workshops at the center. Watching her read aloud to a group of young moms was like watching someone find their heartbeat again. "I was broken," she told me one afternoon, "but you didn't throw me away. You showed me how to build something out of the cracks." And maybe that was the real twist no one saw coming. Not the billionaire husband. Not the public humiliation. Not even the quiet power shift. But the fact that the woman who once mocked me for cleaning tables now cleaned up after others with pride, humility, and a heart changed by kindness. It started with a phone call. I was folding chairs after our Tuesday class on baby nutrition when Belle's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, her expression tightening. "It's Kyle," she said. I hadn't heard that name in months. Her ex. The father of the baby. The one who'd walked out the moment the pregnancy test turned pink. "Do you want to take it?" I asked gently. She didn't answer. Just walked out the back door with her phone pressed to her ear. 15 minutes later, she came back looking like the ghost of herself. Eyes wide, mouth slightly open, one hand gripping the doorframe as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. "What happened?" I asked. She didn't speak at first. Then she said, "He wants to come back." I stared at her. He saw the article. The one about the community kitchen. Saw the pictures.
"Me, you, us."
Said he's proud of me. That he wants to rebuild. Her voice cracked on the last word. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I told him no, she added, more to herself than me. But part of me wanted to say yes. Just to have someone again. I crossed the room and sat beside her. You don't need someone who only shows up when the cameras do. Tears welled in her eyes. I thought I was past it. Past him. But it's like his voice pulled me right back into that place. That's not weakness, Belle, I said softly. That's memory. It echoes even after we've rebuilt. She exhaled, long and heavy. Later that night, she called me again. He asked if he could meet the baby. I said no. Are you okay? I asked. I'm proud of myself, she whispered. But it hurts more than I thought it would. I understood. Growth always hurts. Especially when it comes from choosing your worth over comfort. 2 days later, a gossip blog published a photo of Belle outside the center, holding her baby. The caption was cruel. From designer diva to soup kitchen sister, what happened to Belle Hayes? She was devastated. I tried to help. I really tried. I reminded her of all the people she had helped. But that's not what people see, Cleo, she shouted. They see a washed-up mom who lost her shine. They don't care how much I've changed. No, I replied quietly. But you do. That stopped her. She looked at me, something soft breaking behind her eyes. I'm scared, she said. Scared that if I stop proving myself for just 1 second, they'll say, see? We were right about her. I wrapped my arms around her. Then let's not prove them wrong. Let's just be right. Quietly, boldly, together. In the weeks that followed, something incredible happened. People did start to see. Not because we shouted louder, but because we stood taller, steadier. We expanded the center to a second location. More women came. More stories unfolded. And slowly, word spread, not through tabloids, but through gratitude. One woman said, "This place saved my life." Another whispered, "You made me feel human again." And one little girl, maybe 8 or 9, hugged Brielle's leg and said, "Are you the nice lady who reads books and gives hugs? I want to be like you." That one broke her. She cried for 10 minutes in the bathroom that day. But they were good tears. Healing tears. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the walls gold, Belle turned to me and asked, "Do you ever miss it?" Miss what? The days when no one expected anything from us. When we could just hide? I smiled. No. Because back then, we didn't know who we could become. She took my hand, eyes serious. You pull me out, Cleo. You didn't throw my past in my face. You could have crushed me that day, at the baby shower. I didn't want to crush you, I said. I wanted you to see. She nodded, swallowing hard. Well, I do now. That night, Elias came to pick me up. On the way home, I looked out the window and asked, "Do you think people really change?" He reached for my hand. Not always. But you did. And you helped someone else do it too. That's the rarest kind of strength. I squeezed his hand back. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted peace. He smiled. And look what grew from it. Spring came early that year. The city, still shaking off winter's dust, felt strangely alive, like something was blooming beneath the sidewalks and silence. And just like that, something bloomed in us too. An unexpected call came in one morning. Elias handed me the phone as I watered the plants outside the center. "It's the Women's Alliance," he whispered. "They want you as their keynote speaker." I blinked. Me? He smiled. You. They said your name came up from over a dozen people. Some you've helped. Others you've never even met. I sat down on the bench slowly, the hose still running in the flower bed. Why would they want me? Because you turned pain into purpose, he said. And that's rare. The night of the gala arrived like thunder wrapped in velvet. The ballroom was tall and glowing, crystal chandeliers, polished floors, and people in gowns that looked stitched from stars. Elias adjusted my bracelet as I stood in the mirror, nerves fluttering in my chest. "You don't need to perform," he said. "Just speak from where it hurts. That's where people hear you the loudest." I nodded. "I'm scared." He pressed a kiss to my shoulder. "That means you're about to say something important." Belle was already there when we arrived, standing quietly near the back, her baby asleep in her arms, her eyes soft with pride. "You ready?" she whispered. "No," I said. "But I'm going anyway." I walked up to the stage with my heart beating so loud, I was sure they could hear it through the microphone. I looked out at the crowd. Politicians,
CEOs,
journalists, people who once would have looked through me like glass. I took a breath. "My name is Cleo Blake," I began, "and I used to be the girl who cleaned cables at her sister's baby shower." A ripple of soft laughter moved through the room, but not mockery. Recognition. I stood in that room that day while someone I love, my sister, pointed out my place. And she wasn't wrong. I was there to help clean. I'd volunteered. I wasn't rich. I wasn't influential. I wasn't married to a billionaire. Yet. Light laughter again. Elias smiled softly from the front. But what she didn't see was that I was never ashamed of my work. I've scrubbed floors, washed dishes, folded chairs. And now I run 2 centers that serve hundreds of women a week. I paused. I didn't rise by stepping on others. I rose by lifting the ones who were ignored. And the person who once tried to shame me? I looked directly at Belle. She's now my partner in changing lives. Not because I forgave her out of pity, but because I believed in the woman she could become. The crowd was utterly still. "I didn't want revenge," I said, voice softer now. "I wanted peace. And I found it, not in headlines or applause, but in quiet rooms where people rediscover their worth." A pause. My story isn't about a girl who married rich. It's about a girl who remembered she was rich already, in patience, in grit, in love, and who invited others to do the same. I stepped back. Silence stretched for half a second. Then applause thundered through the room. But what I remember most was Belle, standing at the back, eyes full of tears, clapping slowly, her baby still asleep on her chest. It wasn't just applause. It was release. After the gala, people came up to me, hugged me, thanked me, shared their stories. But one woman, maybe 50, with silver streaks in her hair, held my hand and said, "I never stood up for my sister when others mocked her. But you reminded me it's not too late." The next morning, I sat on the steps of the center, sipping coffee with Belle beside me. We watched the sun rise behind the brick building we'd painted ourselves. "You killed it last night," she said, nudging my shoulder. I almost passed out. "You made me cry." I didn't mean to. I needed to. I smiled. "Me too." A group of kids ran past us, squealing with laughter. The kitchen lights flicked on. Volunteers arrived, smiling, waving, alive, with purpose. "You ever wonder what life would be like if that baby shower never happened?" she asked. I thought for a second. Then maybe we'd still be pretending. And no one would be fed. No one would feel seen. Belle leaned back, sun warming her face. "Thank God for broken moments." "Yeah," I said, squeezing her hand. "They're where everything real begins." And that's the truth. Not all revenge stories end with slammed doors or destroyed reputations. Some end with a quiet room full of laughter. A sister redeemed. A community healed. And a woman once mocked for cleaning tables, now standing tall, not because she won, but because she rose.